St Mary's in Western Sydney. With a bit of Prince. We turn onto the Great Western Highway, heads up to the Blue Mountains. You can follow this road up to the Blaxland. We'll go that way, I don't think I'll record all of it, or I might pause a bit. We'll call this trip St Mary's to Blaxland. I'll pause it through these boring lights, and it'll be the most exciting thing that's put on YouTube. We're going to talk about the Gaza situation. We'll cover that. We'll cover what's happened to the union movement in Australia. It was down to about whatever it is, 15, 16, maybe 17%, from literally half the working population were in a union back in the, I think it was the mid-70s. Started dropping significantly, and of course the Liberals are very happy that a lot less people are in unions, because some of the unions actually encourage their members to vote Labor. Most of the unions would encourage the members to get rid of the Liberals, and that would have helped at the last federal election to some degree. But anyway, I'll pause it till we move it again. So in Australia, Liberals are the opposite of Democrats are called Liberals in America. So what are they liberated from here? They're liberated from a fair idea, Liberals. They're not very liberal at all if that involves sharing the wealth. They're unliberal. Anyway, this is St Mary's. There's a speed camera there, 60 k's, I'm sitting on 50. These Ford Rangers in front of me are a very, very popular vehicle. Anyway, we're talking about unionism. A lot of the vehicles are made in Thailand, like that Ford Ranger. A hell of a lot of the four-wheel drives that Australians purchased, whether they be Ford, Holden, Colorado, those sort of things, Nissan Patrol, all those sort of cars, Nissan Navara, what's the other brands? Oh, there's a stack of them, Mitsubishi Triton. A lot of them are made in Thailand. We weren't making a lot of four-wheel drives to my knowledge, but maybe some. But now we don't make any cars, and we assemble the Mack trucks, but for how much longer that will last, I don't know. That's up in Waco in Queensland, where I'm from, originally in Queensland. So there's complaints that when you look back on why the manufacturing industry died, it was up to 80 here, so we can get away with boot scooting a bit. We actually get moving along here. Might even get past that bus ahead of us. But yeah, so if you can't, and wondering why I got the camera on an angle, otherwise you film too much of the holder. So the reason why the manufacturing industry has collapsed to a massive degree, I work in manufacturing, but it's a hell of a lot less jobs there. It's a hell of a smaller industry than it was, say, 20 or 30 years ago, especially talking 40 years ago. It's slowly but surely been, and obviously you can't compete against Southeast Asian wages, places like Vietnam, Thailand, Philippines, of course, China. China's not Southeast Asia, I think it's South Asia. Anyway, parts of China might be in Southeast Asia. But anyway, I get the specific there. You can't compete. We're paying good wages in Australia, and the wages are a quarter, or in some cases maybe a fifth, or even a tenth of the wages here in some countries. Or that might have been the case in the past, I don't know, but now. So obviously if a company is only making, say for instance in the 70s they were only making $500,000 profit, which sounds like a lot back then, but if they knew they moved to Asia, say by the early 80s they moved to Asia and they could make $4 million profit instead of $500,000, it's a no-brainer, they're going to go. But what happened with the car industry, what really killed it was that the Liberals greatly reduced the import tax on the vehicles like the one in front of me, the BMW, like these European cars, what they called I think it was an import tax, but there was luxury vehicle tax included BMWs. I think that's right. Anyway, it was an import tax on vehicles, and so when you scrap that, you take away some of the incentive to buy Australian made, other than some of us just buy Australian made cars like Fords, and Ford Falcon were one of the most popular Australian made, and Holden Commodore. People would buy those cars because they are Australian made. They knew that supported Australian jobs, but even if they didn't care about that so much, they still bought them because they were reliable. They were a good car. Now I can nick up this side lane. I think you can overtake on the left lane. No, you can't, not if there's cars back there. Anyway, back behind the Ford Ranger, so didn't really achieve anything getting in the overtaking lane. And the bus is still ahead of me. It's been there for the last 5 kilometres or something. Anyway, so I'll pause it up here. We're going for a nice park. Chapman Gardens, coming into Penrith. Got another couple of k's, still got to go past Kingswood. We'll go through the heart of Penrith and I'll film that, so I'll pause it for a bit.
On the Xmas Pacific motorway approaching Ku-ring-gai Chase Road, and in Warringah to Calvin there's heavy holiday traffic that has delays on the Xmas Pacific motorway for the northbound front. Just a reminder, double demerits are now in effect until midnight New Year's Day. Worried about cheapage.
Yeah, you got to watch the double demerit. So going past the Nepean Hospital, that's a Penrith's big hospital. It's only just been rebuilt and opened the last couple of years. It was a big job. I didn't work on that one. I've worked on hospitals before and schools and done work on university grounds and stuff. Anyway, we'll go through the heart of Penrith, so I'll have to get behind this BMW. He's the enemy of Australian car manufacturing. All the people who went and bought BMWs. Maybe this guy might have been buying Aussie cars until he couldn't buy one anymore. You don't know what people's history are. I'm not saying he's the enemy just because he's driving a BMW. It's a nice car, the X5, but I have heard certain models, they're not much good. That will cost you a fortune. It's got very wide tyres on it. Cost a fortune, probably cost $400 or $500 a tyre or something like that, depending what brand you get. At least $300 a tyre probably for an X5 if you're talking a reasonable brand. But you know, I would pay $200 a tyre for my Holden Rodeo, which is a 20-year-old car, not made in Australia either. So there's a bit of hypocrisy in my message about Australian manufacturing. That's fair enough. I get it. And I might pause it a bit till we get into the heart of Penrith. There's not much to see along this section. Roundabouts and suburbia, that's all. There's your fire and rescue there. A message goes out to anyone doing fire and rescue over the summer. Congratulations for your choice of careers or if you're volunteering. It's a tough one. I'm not sure I'd do it myself, but quite happily doing the SES. So in the process of doing that at the moment. So getting back to the car manufacturer, we'll talk more about the SES later, maybe on the way up to Blaxland on the mountain roads. The car manufacturing is, look, it's dead in Australia, and there's a sadness there for years. I think the last Holden went off the production line, I think it was 2017 or could have been 18, but thereabouts. And 2016 they just started slowing down big time. They knew it was collapsing. I think they'd announced it by about 2015 or 16. Well before the final car went out. But the beauty now, if you do get one of those cars, the last of the, last couple hundred, last 1,000, whatever, last year, they'll be collector's item. You keep them in good nick, so you can get a 2017 or whatever the last year was, Holden Commodore, especially if you get a V8. But the only thing is, though, you're going to be able to get the fuel 10 or 20 years time. You know, that's a possibility that could get very expensive, but you wouldn't be using it as a daily driver anyway, so there's a bit of investment tip. If you're in Australia and looking at getting an Australian made vehicle, you could import one from overseas into your country, and it might be even worth more. So you find some Aussie expat who wants to buy a really nice clean last of the Holden Commodore or Ford Falcon V8, or maybe the V6. The XR6 is a Ford Falcon, so you get the XR6 Turbo. They move. A friend of mine had one of them in the Ute form, and hell of a car on the Coranda range, and these little tight hairpin corners. You got this hell of a powerful engine. Can't remember what they are. 250 horsepower maybe. I think it might be 180 horsepower for a standard. standard V6, something like that, but when you put the turbo on, it's a whole different kettle of fish. But I did have a Ford Falcon Ute, the BA, and then I had a BF Mark II, but XR6, but mine was the non-turbo. Anyway, it's a beauty of a car. I'll just pause it here. Yeah, this is Panther Zone. We're just going through Main Street at Penrith. Didn't have to come this way, I just thought I'd come and show you how bad the traffic can be. And this is Christmas time. I mean, 2 days out of Christmas, we'll get through. We had to wait one red light and it went green, so only 2 red lights and we're through the heart of Penrith. That's not too bad for a Saturday, 2 days before Christmas, eh?
While 7 people have been taken to hospital in Sydney's west following a 2-car crash early this morning, 3 children have sustained serious injuries. A UN Security Council resolution to...
There you go. UN's about Israel, Gaza. We'll get to that. I'll go a different way than what I was planning to. This guy's actually turning right, so I'll sneak across. This is highly illegal from the left lane. He's turning right, so he had his indicator on, then he changed his mind. Anyway, the lights haven't gone on, he's not copper. Anyway, it is what it is. And yeah, so 7 deaths overnight, literally overnight in Australia. That's unusual, I think, for Friday night to claim 7 lives across the country, but we're talking out of 26 million, so 7 deaths. I mean, 1 death's too many, but anyway, I'll pause it again until we get the green light.
The Weather Bureau's senior meteorologist Angus Hines says there's a potential on Monday for flash flooding, hail and damaging winds along the country's most populated stretch of coastline.
The action really focused in terms of thunderstorms across the eastern coast. So chance of a thunderstorm through Brisbane, Sydney and Melbourne. Even Canberra seeing a possibility of a thunderstorm on Christmas Day, as well as...
Christmas Day is going to be a day to stay off the road by the sound of it. Hail and Christmas weather predictions pretty ugly for the Gold Coast. And anyway, I'm not heading up there this year to Queensland, so I'm relieved that I didn't plan on going, and the weather sounds awful, so good riddance to that idea. Anyway, if you're up on the Gold Coast or Brisbane or whatever, southeast Queensland or anywhere along the coast, sounds like it's going to be heavy rain, so go easy with driving on Christmas Day. There's not a lot of cars on the road Christmas Day, so there won't be 7 people killed, you would hope. Might be 1 or 2. As I say, 1 or 2 deaths are too many. But here we are, coming into the roundabout. No one coming out of the shopping centre. I got lucky there from the Penrith City Council. And then this road takes us up to Blaxland. I'll pause it again until we get a green light.
Was released in 1984, Last Christmas was originally held off the top spot by Band-Aid's charity single, Do They Know It's Christmas?
Yeah, Do They Know It's Christmas 1984, and then Wham! Last Christmas. They had a couple of #1s with Last Christmas by Wham! If you remember George Michael. He died from something, didn't he? He was a gay fella. Anyway, in the Last Christmas, he's definitely got a woman. I don't know if he's bi or gay or what the story was, but in the Last Christmas thing, to sell a pop video, you need a man and woman back in the 80s, I suppose. Although in saying that, everyone knew Freddie Mercury was bi and more gay than anything else, and that was one of the biggest bands in the world. Freddie Mercury, and then of course you got a guy out of Judas Priest. He came out as being gay. Anyway, whatever about that. I don't know how we got from cars to Penrith to gays, but that's just what's on the radio, and horrific weather coming Christmas Day. Anyway, I'll pause it again until we get near the river. There's the river. You see there's a railway bridge on the right there. So this is the Nepean River, or Nepean, Victoria Bridge. And this river got flooded very badly. I can't really film the river, but if you want to go onto Google Images or whatever search engine and type in Penrith River or Nepean River, river near Penrith, if you can't remember how to spell Nepean, it's Nepean. Quite nice here, you got some big trees over the road and it's a tight left-hander into Emu Plains. Then we head right up through Emu Heights and then up to Blaxland, and that's the end of the video. That's the end. If you ride there, you can't ride the freebie all the way out where I'm going, way out west of the Blue Mountains, way out in the blue yonder. I've got a little kelpie pup sleeping next to me. He's happy enough to keep quiet while I'm making the video. Very, very nice of him. It's a pure fluke that he's behaving himself, but he doesn't bark much. I give him that Anyway, so the car manufacturing industry really hit the skids, and the Liberals didn't help. Some people blame the unions because the wages were too high, but really you can't compete with Asia. The bulk of four-wheel drives, they're very popular in Australia, the Toyotas and all the different... Oh, that's why I didn't mention Toyota Hiluxes. You got the Isuzus, the Holden Colorados, lots of cars, Nissan Navara, all those cars. A lot of them are made in Thailand, and the Fords. I heard that what about the Ford Rangers were made in Mexico, but I don't know about you. Have to do some. They might be made in more than one place, but the other thing is cars are often just assembled in one country, but the parts come from all different parts of the world, wherever they can get them made that are fairly reliable, consistent quality parts. Well, that's debatable. But quality parts, we'll say for the sake of the argument, at a reasonable price, that's where they'll get the parts from. And it's got to be reliable, consistent manufacturer. It can't be placed in some war-torn place is going to pump out 10,000 products and then disappear because it got shut down. So it's got to be a reliable, consistent manufacturer. Anyway, it's quite nice along here. You go under the bridge, road subject to flooding, and then we head up to Emu Heights. I'll pause it again once we get under the bridges. Some of you know this area very well if you're Sydney people and you're out exploring the west, or you might even be from Penrith or Emu Heights or something. So welcome to home, basically. Touring Australia, you could call this video. Maybe I'll call it something like that. Touring Australia and discussing the collapse of the car manufacturing industry 2 days before Christmas. So we really are at the country, as you can see. This is between Emu Plains and Emu Heights. It's quite a bit of bush. Pretty nice looking bike from what I can see. So yeah, the industrial area on the left, and back a little bit was the Emu Plains Correctional Centre, which is sort of one that's sort of on the edge of a farming sort of area. There's like a dairy farm there on the right. You can't see it, but anyway. So once you get past this area, the only place to stop for a supermarket really is up. If you go on the Great Western Highway, the only place to stop going further west is Katoomba, or you go further out to Lithgow or Bathurst, depending which direction you're going. You might turn right after Lithgow, go up to Castlereagh Highway up to Munchie. You can go that inland way up to Queensland if you wanted. And yeah, so this is where the road starts to incline. Starts to right, this place often has jobs going. Eco Blue Business Park, but I mean it's a steel factory around here. I don't know if it's in there, it might be down the other road. There's still a bit of stuff made around the Western Sydney area, no doubt about that. Around here, around Campbelltown. Alright, now we're moving again. I've managed to pause most of the lights, although when I watch people's videos and they're just talking and they're sitting at the lights, that's pretty boring. At least when you're moving, you're sort of exploring. You might be in some part of Europe or USA and Canada that's freezing cold and snow on the road, and you're getting summer video from Australia. So maybe I'll title it Summer Touring Western Sydney into the Blue Mountains. Sounds better than just labelling it about manufacturing, because that's just what I'm talking about, and the scenery might be what some people are interested in. They might understand a little bit about why manufacturing is in decline in a lot of the Western world. The Western world is in decline, but the interesting part is where the conundrum is, or contradiction is, Australia is richer than it ever was, but it's something like 10% of the population have 50% of the wealth, and that concentrated around some of those rich suburbs of eastern Sydney and parts of Melbourne where there's a lot of wealth, parts of Brisbane. So the greed is it's greed, right? It's not, the wealth isn't distributed fairly, and that's one of the drawbacks of capitalism. Anyway, I'm not going on a big socialist rant, but you see I've dropped it back to third up here, and this 15 kilometres an hour if you are in somewhere where it's miles US or wherever. Yeah, you're talking 10 mile an hour limit. That's how tight that's a really tight corner, right? You boot it in second gear, and then you can't really get these old cars to go that fast. That's really revving up to 3,000 revs, and then by the time you put it in third, it drops back to about 1,700 revs. And this one's a bit slightly Actually, it's about as tight, but I'll drop it down a second and I'll see if I can get it up a bit quicker without losing control. Yeah, that was a bit better. Same thing though, once you go from third to second, you drop down to about 1700 revs, which is not bad in a fairly big engine like this. Is 3.5. It's not huge, but I made a mess of that one. But I didn't go over the double wide, and if you did, you'd get away with it because the cops aren't behind you or in front of you. But going over the double wide here is illegal, even to overtake. But I mean, the cops will turn a blind eye if you go over, and they can see that you were just going around someone, so you keep the traffic moving. But it's still illegal. But you can turn right into driveways and like into shops and stuff like that across the double wide, as far as I understand. And you can come out of a driveway. Obviously these people are going to be able to come out of the driveway. We're in suburbia up here, now we're up in the Blue Mountains. I've never been here, it's worth exploring. The Blue Mountains National Park, it's massive. Yeah, there's not much to say about the car manufacturing industry now. We've sort of covered it. Just ran out of puff. It's closed down in Australia. 2 days out from Christmas, so I'm wishing everyone a safe Christmas on the road. Don't be like those 7 people. You know, they're not responsible necessarily, but 7 deaths in one night. It's pretty full on. So maybe I'll put that in the title. Summer drive, Western Sydney to Blue Mountains. 7 deaths, 1 day. There you go, that's a long title, but people on YouTube and they type the word deaths in, maybe it'll come up. How many videos that are released today would have the word deaths in them, or death, car crash, something like that. 7 dead. Yeah, happy Christmas. Not everyone related to the people that are dead. It won't be happy Christmas. It'll be the worst bloody Christmas of your life. Anyway, this is Blaxland here. The dog's getting restless, so I might stop somewhere and let him get out for a bit of a wander, take him for a walk. Park somewhere up here or further up the mountain. Anyway, I said I'd drive you from St. Mary's to Blaxland, and this is where you get out. I'll only charge you $200. That sound reasonable? Or 20? Hold on, that's a bit of a difference, driver. From $20 to $200. How do you decide? Well, that's the thing, isn't it? With Uber, you get in and do the trip one day is $20 or something. A trip like that would probably be 30 because it's a fairly long way. 35, 40, whatever. But say it's 35 one day, and then you get in the following day and they got a surge on, the same trip's $80 or $90, and you've done the same trip at the same time of the day. So it's not consistent, is it? It's really exploiting the fact that there's a shortage of drivers in that area, so you get screwed over if you need to get to work or need to get to the train station or something like that. Anyway, all the best. See you.